Hey there, in this lesson I want to go over quad chord recipes, or chords that have 4 notes and all of the variations that can entail. Initially, only my patrons on my Patreon High Castle Conservatory will have early access, and then eventually I'll release it to the public. If you are just watching this on YouTube, please come and join my Patreon High Castle Conservatory. It is the best way to support my channel and my musical efforts and gives me a little support going forward. So let's get right into building 4-note chords. I'm going to point out the C major scale. Every note we're going to build is from C. You could build this from any key. That's why I don't actually say a note. I just say kind of a formula going across here. To build a major 7 chord, we'll need this. To build a dominant 7 chord, we'll need this. And I'll explain that in a second. In general, they take something like the major scale, or really any scale, and they take every other note is the most basic way to build chords, either triads. I have other lessons on triads, check that out, or 4-note chords or 5-note chords. And then there's modifications you can do after you do the 4-note chords, but let's look right here to major 7th. To build a major 7th, we'll need a root. In this case, since we're going to do every chord in C, every single note root will be C. And how many semitones or half steps above the root is the root? Obviously 0, because the root is the root. So that's kind of silly, but you'll see up here it becomes useful. If you have no clue how to build these chords, you'll be able to do it from these are actually formulas. So to build a major 7 chord, what that means is you have a major chord with a major 7 also. It actually implies both the major note and the 7th being higher than a dominant 7th, which is a dominant 7th is a major chord with a minor 7th, or a dominant 7th. So to build a major 7 chord, we have a root, then we have the root is 0 semitones above the root, obviously, and then the third is going to be a major third, which is 4 semitones above the root. So count it. Here's the root. Now 1, 2, 3, 4. There's that major third. Then we have a perfect 5th, which is 7 semitones above the root. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You have just a major chord so far, and then you have a major 7th, which is 11 semitones above the root, or hint, 1 below the octave. So if I count it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So that's just every other note in C major, and that's what's called a C major 7 chord. And don't forget that it implies a major 3rd and a major 7th. Now we have a dominant 7th, which is 1 note different than that. It's the same chord, except the major 7th is a minor 7th, but we can't call it a minor 7th because there's a major 3rd in this chord. So we call it a dominant 7th. So we have the root, then we have a major 3rd, 4 semitones above the root, a perfect 5th, which is 7 semitones above the root, that's the C major chord, and then a minor 7th, which is 10 semitones above the root, or 2 below the octave. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And that is the chord of movement in Western music. And check out which harmonics create that. It's 1, 5, 3, 1. Then the 5th harmonic is actually what we call the major 3rd, and the 3rd harmonic is what we call the perfect 5th. Isn't that backwards for Western music to go against the harmonic series? And then the 7th harmonic, tuned very differently, but makes the dominant 7th. I forgot to tell you on the major 7th chord, it's 1, 5, 3, and then the 15th harmonic is the first time you have a major 7. And that's right before 16, which is another octave of 1. Anyway, the dominant 7th is one of the biggest chords of blues and rock and jazz, and it houses a ton of tension, and a ridiculous amount of things are built off a dominant 7 chord. It is the main point of tension in Western music. If we're in C7 like this, it wants to resolve to F, or it could resolve to F minor, or it could be used in a million different other ways. But dominant 7th, that's how you build that. Then you have another quad chord, or a 4-note chord, is a major 6th. And the way you build that is, again, with that major triad, and then you add a major 6th, which is 9 semitones above the root. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. A lot of ways you could voice that. Very common in jazz and ragtime and old kind of music, and really just in so much music, you deciding, am I doing a major 7, a dominant 7, or a major 6? One rule in jazz is when you have the root in the melody, it's hard to have a major 7 unless you're looking for a tension, so they look for more color by adding a 6. So that's how you build a major 6 chord. Then we have a minor with a major 7. So to build a minor, we have the root, then we have a minor 3rd, which is 3 semitones above the root. Then we have a perfect fifth, which we know well, and then a major seventh, which is 11 semitones above the root. That's that classic espionage chord. Minor with a major 7. And the way you build that in the harmonic series is 1, 19, 3rd harmonic, 15th harmonic. I forgot to say the major 6, how to build that. 1, then the 5th harmonic, or the 1st harmonic, then the 5th harmonic, then the 3rd harmonic, then the 27th harmonic. That might seem really high up octave-wise, but I like to compress everything to 1 octave, because an octave is just a repeat. So every single musical value whatsoever can be smushed into 1 single octave so that we can understand its relationship. So the 27th harmonic is really just a way of saying 3 times 3 times 3. And harmonic series works by actual multiplication, whereas Western theory is just like memorize this name and memorize this name. But harmonic series is the actual math of music, and it's really not taught, which is shocking. So it is super useful to start memorizing the Western name and how it relates to the harmonic series. So we have a minor 7 chord now, and that implies a minor 3rd and a minor 7th. So you can't, when I say minor 7, it means both the minor 3rd and the 7th is minor, not major. Otherwise it's called minor major 7. So to build that minor 7th, we have root, and then we have the minor 3rd, and then we have the perfect 5th, which is 7 semitones above the root, and finally the minor 7, which is 10 semitones above the root. And the spelling of that from the harmonic series could be considered 1, 19, 19th harmonic, or 1st harmonic, 19th harmonic, 3rd harmonic, then 7th harmonic. I will say that that 7th harmonic is spelled way differently from Western tuning. So if you wanted a closer harmonic that actually fell closer to it, I would call it the negative 9th harmonic. You know, the 9th is a whole step above the root, so the opposite of going a whole step above the root is going a whole step below the root, and that gives us actually a pretty close B flat. So you could call that 1, 19, 3, and 7, but if you wanted the tuning to be closer, it's actually closer to the negative 9th harmonic, or the opposite. What is an opposite harmonic? Well, if the 9th harmonic is almost exactly a whole step above the root, if I smush the octave, it's actually an octave plus a whole step, but we can always smush the octave into 1 octave just so we can understand it. The opposite of going from the root up basically a whole step is the 9th harmonic, is going down a whole step. So that opposite possibility is what we call a negative harmonic. It's not manifest in the harmonic series, but it's super important to understand that relationship. So the minor 7th chord. Next thing we have is change 1 note to make it a minor 6 chord. Instead of a minor 7, which is that, you have really cool chord used all over like minor key kind of stuff and Kurt Weill. A minor 6 is actually another way to say a half diminished chord down a minor 3rd. So C minor 6 is the same notes as A minor 7 flat 5, or A half diminished, but that's just something to memorize the relationship of. C minor 6 is a 1, a minor 3rd, a perfect 5th, and then a major 6th. And you would spell that the harmonic wise, but it would be 1st harmonic, 19th harmonic, 3rd harmonic, 27th harmonic. Then we have a minor 7 flat 5, otherwise known as a half diminished chord, and that is basically a diminished triad with a minor 7 on top instead of a fully diminished. That's why they call it half diminished, because there's the diminished triad. Fully diminished would be this, but half diminished would be this. Fully diminished is this, half diminished is this. It's a diminished triad with a minor 7 on top. So to spell that, we have a root, a minor 3rd, a flatted 5th, and then a minor 7. One of the most important chords. I have a whole video on this chord and how Brian Wilson uses it so amazingly, and I give examples from Kurt Weill. It's one of those chords that you have to master if you want to become a good songwriter, because it's the key to adding some darkness and mystery and color. Of the major scale, it's actually created from the 7th degree. That's off the charts there, so if I go... Look, the 7th degree naturally makes a minor 7 flat 5 chord from B. But to build it from C, we have a diminished triad and then a minor 7th. The harmonics would be 1, 19, 45, and then 7 or negative 9, like I said before, is actually closer to Western tuning, whereas that 7th harmonic in the harmonic series is 31 cents flat and pretty much a quarter tone. from what we're used to hearing. So it's a note we don't have. So diminished 7th chord is a fully diminished, and that's a linear chord, meaning you go up a minor third, up a minor third, up a minor third, and then up a minor third, we're back home. It actually splits an octave in 4 exactly, into 4 parts, 1, 2, 3, 4. So the notes of C diminished 7 is exactly the same notes as E flat diminished 7. Same exact notes as F sharp diminished 7, and then A diminished 7, then back to C. Those all have the same notes and are semi-interchangeable, with the only difference being, I guess, the bass note and how it fits into your particular chord progression will be one way you decide how to name it. All right, moving right along to some more obscure chords, but definitely important to know to start adding color into your compositions, and jazz players are going to know all these chords, but if you're looking to spice up your compositions, all these that I'm going to go over here pretty quickly will show you, some different possibilities for 4-note chords that you might not have imagined. So C major 7 sus 4. Sus 4 is basically taking the major third and then raising it a half step. So C sus 4. C major 7, but sus 4 is this. So if there was our regular C major 7, here's sus 4. Nice little tension that wants to resolve. So the harmonics of that are 1, then -3. Why is it -3? Because the third harmonic is a perfect fifth above the root. The negative third harmonic must be a perfect fifth below the root, which is F. Smush it to 1 octave. So to spell in the harmonic series, a major 7 sus 4, we have 1 -3, then the third harmonic, and then 15 is the major 7th. Then we have minor 7 sus 4, so a regular minor 7 chord is that, but we're just going to suspend it by moving the minor third up to the F. So that would be 1 negative third harmonic, and then either the 7th harmonic or the -9th, like we discussed before. Then we have major 7 with a flat 5. So here's major 7, and if we're going to flat the 5, we just go like that. Very mysterious chord. That's spelled with major 7 flat 5 is spelled with a 1, 5th harmonic, 45th harmonic, and the 15th harmonic. Then we have major 7 instead of flat 5, we have sharp 5. That's spelled with the 1st harmonic, the 1st harmonic, 5th harmonic, 25th harmonic, and 15th harmonic. Wow, 5s are wild in that, and that's not a coincidence. So 5s are very much related to the idea of an augmented chord and a major 7 chord, because it gives us that augmented note and the major 7 note, because 25 is 5 times 5 and 15 is 5 times 3, and the harmonic actually uses multiplication to make its notes, whereas Western music just uses names that you're supposed to memorize that are somewhat arbitrary, or at least based on a major scale, which is not the be-all end-all. And I don't know if you know this, but when you name something based on a scale, you're basically calling that scale the god of that universe, instead of I don't know, I could go on a rant, but when you invert cause and effect in science, you're basically totally confused about what's happening. Major scale is treated like a cause because Western music names our intervals based on the notes of that major scale. They call this the 2nd, they call this the major 3rd, they call this the perfect 5th, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but the harmonic series actually tells us that this is the 3rd harmonic and this is the 5th harmonic. So anyway, memorize the names in Western music because we have to communicate with each other, but remember which harmonic creates these, and that's the actual math of the vibration and the divisions of a string that create these basic harmonies. Yes, the tuning does vary on different harmonics from our compromised system of Western equal-tempered tuning, but close enough. You still need to understand the basic harmonic that creates those. So where were we? We were on major 7 sharp 5, which is this. The 25th harmonic gives us that sharp 5. Then let's do a dominant 7 sharp 5. Dominant 7's that. That's used all the time in, let's say we're like in E flat, 6 dominant, 2. That's in the key of E flat, but C7 sharp 5. Dominant 7 sharp 5 or C7 sharp 5 is fine to call it that. And then use C7 flat 5 as this. Another name for that could be sharp 11. Depends whether you wanted a regular 5 and then the sharp 11 way up there, or you just don't want a regular 5 at all. So it's basically semantics. But and we have 1, 5, 45, and 7. And 7 is interchangeable with -9, which is actually closer to the tuning of this Western tuning. Then we have major with an add 9. So here would be an add 9 would either be up here. Why do birds? Or you could tuck it down an octave, like a Steely Dan add 2 or add 9. Then you have a minor add 9, where you don't have any 7 at all. You just have a really nice Bernard Herrmann kind of film chord. You know, sometimes adding a minor 7 to everything sounds kind of cheesy or too much. If you just add a minor chord with a 9, it sounds really mysterious. And Bernard Herrmann uses that all over the place. Listen to that chord there. He tucks it down, so that's an A. A minor add 9. So in this C, you could tuck this D down here and put the C in the bass. I'm sure you've heard that sound. C minor add 9, but if you put it at the 2, it's the same note. 2 and 9 are octaves apart, so basically just the same thing. That's a minor with an add 9. Now let's do a major with an add 2. That's kind of like the same thing as a 9, add 9, except with 2, we are saying we definitely want it down here. Steely Dan seems to get bored of major chords, so if they're having a major chord in their song, they seem to have this almost rule that, hey, you can just play an add 2. Looking to add that color, and it's tension. That is definitely tension, but it's not like this kind of tension. It's like close tension that's almost like peaceful tension. I don't know how to... So that's a major with an add 2. We have the bass note there, we have the 2 there, we have the major 3rd there, and we have the perfect 5th there. The harmonics that make that would be the 1st harmonic, and then the 9th harmonic would be this, and then the 5th harmonic would be this, and the 3rd harmonic would be this. So remember, I'm reducing all the harmonics to a single octave, which is why I'm skipping around seemingly in octaves. And then finally, the last 4-note chord I can think of, I'm sure I missed some in there, and these are, pretty darn cool, but we have a minor with an add 11. So an 11 chord is basically a perfect 4th above the root, and it's basically just used on minor chords, because otherwise you have a sus chord. So if you have a minor chord, you can voice it a lot of ways. You could get rid of the 5th and just add that there. You could get rid of the 3rd, but then it's just a sus 4. You don't know if it's major or minor. So if I keep the minor note in, you can do all kinds of stuff, but I think the easiest way would be you could put the perfect 5th down there. So you have a root and the perfect 5th. This is a different voicing. There's the root again, the minor 3rd, and then the 11. And listen to the color that has compared to a normal minor, now with the add 11. So that is all the different 4-note chords that I can think of. You can look at how to build all of them. Come join my Patreon, and you're going to get all access to all of these charts, all these sheets, and lots of lessons that you can't get just from my YouTube channel. So yeah, study this. This is super important, and the voicings on these can highly vary. Like I said, if I'm doing minor add 9, I can put the 9 back down an octave. It's still an add 9. You could call it add 2, but thanks for watching this lesson, and hope you enjoyed it. I hate having to advertise to you, so let me make this quick. I could really use your help to grow this channel. Between my full-time job as an ER nurse and being a husband and father of 2 kids, it is very hard for me to find the time to make content for this channel. Many of my videos take 10 or 20 hours to create. For those of you who are really getting a lot out of my lessons, here is how you can help me out. Make sure you are subscribed to my channel and that the notification bell is set to all notifications for my channel. I think only 10% of you have that clicked now. You can watch more of my videos by browsing through the playlist section of my channel to find the videos that most interest you. But the very best way you can help me is to subscribe to my Patreon music school called High Castle Conservatory. YouTube pays me about 1 cent per view, but on Patreon you can decide to give me $3.50 a month, or $7, or $15, or more, whatever you feel you're getting out of my lessons. The more support that I get on Patreon, the more time I have to devote to making unique music education content for you. At this point, I have not abbreviated my videos here on YouTube or put my full videos behind a paywall, and by joining my Patreon, you help me in the most direct way possible. If you have found yourself really enjoying my lessons, then please come join High Castle Conservatory on Patreon. Lastly, please consider buying my original music projects I.S.S. and High Castle Tele Orchestra on Bandcamp. You can find the details and links in the description below.